Welcome to A Well-Designed Business with your host, LuAnn. LuAnn has a lifetime of experience building a multi-million-dollar business with her husband and cousin, and she knows the challenges you face in your interior design business. LuAnn brings you real-life answers to your most pressing problems, as well as practical strategies to explode your interior design business. So, let's get to the business of interior design.
Hi, welcome to another episode of A Well-Designed Business. I am extremely happy to let you know that today I have Shay McGee in the house. This is Shea McGee of Studio McGee. It's right. It's been a long time coming. She's a very busy lady, but we finally worked it out, her and I, and you are not going to be disappointed. I know that feeling sometimes when you meet somebody that you admire from afar and you imagine how terrific they are and how cool they must be and how awesome and normal and everything else. And then somehow you meet them or hear them on an interview and you're like, whatever. Not that way with Shay. Shay is a real deal. And I'm going to say, if you're one of the few people that are not familiar with Shay, she and her husband Sid are the creators of Studio McGee. You'll hear Shay describe how after graduating with a degree in public relations, she soon realized that what she really wanted to do was design. So she went back and spent a few semesters in design school. And then all of a sudden she found that she was attracting more projects than she ever thought possible. And what started as a consulting for friends and neighbors soon turned into a full-time job with a client waiting list. Then she and Sid realized that with his business experience and her creative vision, that they would make an amazing team. So they stuck their, stake in the ground. You'll hear her tell it. They made a decision to sell their home in California and move to Utah. They poured their life savings into starting a business, put it all on the line. She used the power of Instagram to grow their business. And 3 years later, it's literally not quite, you can't even say it's 3 because it was 3 a month ago. So it's 2 years and a month that they have over 540,000 Instagram followers. They have a team of 30 and they have projects all over the country and they run 2 multi-million-dollar businesses, Studio McGee and McGee & Company, which is an e-commerce site for home decor and furniture. Today, Shay and I discuss how her and Sid run their operation. He runs the operation side and she runs the creative side. And we talk about working with your spouse, the pros and the cons, and having 2 little children. This is another topic that I have to say has been often requested by listeners, the talking about the husband and wives or the 2 spouses working together. So we go through all of these things today, Shay and I. It's a fun conversation. I'm pretty sure you're going to like it. Now, speaking of fun, are you in the Philadelphia area? Because did you know that our show sponsor, Kravet, is opening their newly designed showroom in Philly on October 4th? That's right. I'm going to be there, and I'd love for you to come out and meet us. I'm also looking to set up 3 or 4 interviews with interior designers, you, if you're listening in the Philly area, to do some on-site interviews right there at the Kravet showroom. I'm not talking about like detailed hour-long things like we do in the show. I'm talking about fun things like give me your thoughts and your impressions on the showroom. The things that we never talk about on this show, right? The pretty stuff, okay? So if you are an interior designer in the Philadelphia area and you can come out to the opening on October 4th at Kravet, please email me at info@windowworksnj.com if you'd like to arrange to be interviewed that day, because I'd love to meet you and have the chance to interview you. Alrighty, now, no further waiting. Let's get to Shay McGee. Hey, Shay, thanks so much for joining me on A Well-Designed Business today.
Hi, LuAnn. Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I am too. I have been looking forward to meeting you since I saw you in person at Design Bloggers Conference last year, March 2017 in Los Angeles. And of course, I didn't have the fortune to meet you in person that day, but I was in the audience and I was very impressed by your presentation. And I don't want this to sound, like I'm an old lady telling you anything, but I really was impressed on all the levels. I was impressed at your poise. I was impressed at the way that you were able to show and share yourself in a very authentic way, but also express the journey that you've been on and the things and the challenges that you guys have faced, and put it together in a polished way. So hats off to you, lady.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. And so since then, I have been literally trying to get you on the show, but you are busy.
Yes,
you are
it's
busy.
Hard.
Yes.
Yes.
And of course, I can't tell you the number of times I have gotten a message, an email, a DM, whatever from a listener that said, if you could get Shay McGee on the show, I'd be really, really happy. And I'm like, I know, me too.
Well, I'm here. I'm glad it all worked out, and
Yes.
I am here today.
Yes, I mean, but look, we're going to talk about all of the reasons why, being on my podcast wasn't exactly at the top of the list. You are in the midst of creating something that is, you really, truly, I would almost say like a phenomenon here. I mean, Shay, you just passed your 3-year anniversary in business. So that means you're, 3 years and a minute in business. So it's not 3 full years. So it's essentially 2 years in business.
Yes.
And, you have 574,000 followers on Instagram. You have 44,000 followers on YouTube. God knows how many people come to your website in a day. Honestly, Shay, seriously, I mean, I'm working my butt off for 30 years, and I know what I get done in a day. I know how much I do. I know, what it takes. And this is just, it reminds me in a lot of ways of the conversation that we had with Amber Lewis, who was also at Design Bloggers. And, to some extent, you guys are, have similar platforms and your peers, but everybody gets there a different way. So I'm really wanting to learn from you and figure out from you, what is the deal here?
Well, I mean, if I'm being completely honest, sometimes my husband and I, well, as you know, we work together, we'll just look at each other and be like, is this really happening? I think so often you think that you work really hard and you kind of don't expect to see the results. I mean, sometimes like with my diet and exercise, I feel like I'm doing it all the time, and I don't know that I'm always seeing the results. But with our business, I feel like we have seen the fruits of our labor in a short amount of time, and I think that it's been a combination of a lot of hard work and smarts, but also good timing, and there's always going to be a little bit of luck, I think, that follows.
Well, right. But I always say you have to be prepared to be lucky. So you have to kind of do the work so that it looks easy, right?
I love that.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And so one of the things that I heard about you in talking about your business was that you have 2 small children, 2 little girls who are adorable, by the way. But that pretty much your husband is the one who's up and out of the house at the crack of dawn and working. And then you pretty much do the afternoon shift. But here was the thing that I heard is that then after you have your family time and you put the girls to bed, then you both are working late into the night. Like, what the heck, man? How do you, seriously?
We're tired.
Yeah, but Shay, I mean, and so what is late? Is late 10 o'clock is late, 2 o'clock in the morning, because you have little children. You don't have people that can make their lunches for themselves. You have little children that need bathing and diaper changing, for crying out loud.
Yeah, our schedule can be exhausting. My husband wakes up, Sid wakes up early, and then he goes into the office, and then I come in. I wake up with the girls, and we do breakfast and kind of get everyone ready for the day, and then I come in and work from like 9:30 until 2, and then Sid's there the full day at the office, and then I come home. I just try to hang out with the girls and do dinner and just family time, and then they go to bed, and then we probably I'd say I'm the one that's usually the one working at night mostly, because Sid wakes up earlier in the morning, and I work until probably midnight, and then sometimes 1 late, but usually it's midnight is the cutoff point, and then I got to go to bed.
Okay.
And I know that that's not a sustainable
Right.
schedule forever, but I guess we just kind of saw that like we have to get that momentum early on. And so we're just building the foundation for a business, and that requires a lot of hard work. And so I love what I do. I'm never grumbling when I'm like
Mm,
up late at night. I just really love it. So,
right.
um,
I understand. I relate to that. Although I was not at that sort of schedule when my children were young. Now I'm like that, very much like that. And what's so funny is it's so funny because a lot of times, I will literally have a single glass of Pinot Noir almost every night because I work right up until the time it's time to stop working. And then it's like I can't relax and my brain is still going. And so what's so funny is I'll just share with you guys. Last night, I literally was like, okay, I don't really feel like having a glass of wine tonight and I'm really tired and it should be fine. And I got into bed at like 11:45 and at 12:15, my mind is racing and I'm like,
oh yeah.
should have had the glass of wine. You know what I mean? But at the same time, what's really crazy was I had to make myself stay in bed because I would have been very happy to get up and do the things that was on my brain. And if I were single, I probably would have. But if I, being married, my husband would be like, "Are you out of your mind?" You know what I'm saying? So he would have been like, this is insane. Like he would have said no to me to do it. But the next morning he'd be like, "You're kidding me." And so what I'm saying is I'm expressing, I understand the excitement. You're not grumbling about doing it. You're charged up by doing it. But I can't fathom doing it with little babies and needing to be happy and cheery and
Yeah.
I mean I'm not happy and cheery in the morning, but it's taking care of them and
Yeah.
being present. You have to be present to be a good mom and dad. You can't be not there. That's really the only way I can say it. When they want to say, take 10 minutes to say, I went to the potty and be high
Yep.
five, you have to like, when, just the craziness that you do with children. So it's remarkable. And it sounds like Sid, his morning is really early morning.
Yeah, he wakes up early, and so I guess something we've kind of found in our business that the creatives are always like the late night people, and then the more operational people are the early morning people. And so for me, like my brain is getting fired up at like 10 p.m. and I've got like
Yes.
all my ideas going, but then like do not even think about waking me up at 5 in the morning. Like I am
Right.
not interested. Yeah, it works for us, and that kind of juggle is really crazy, but it's great.
Okay.
We're loving it. So
Okay. Well, I've had at least, I would say, a half a dozen emails asking me to interview people that work with their husband or wife in their business. And what I always say, if 5 or 6 people are asking, there's probably 3 times
yeah,
that are interested, right? Because a lot of people don't take the time to ask a request out loud. So let's go down that road a little bit more. So because this is this is working with your husband on Uber steroids here. Like, I mean, we're
yes.
talking about between the two of you are practically covering around the clock at your business. Okay. So Shay, I understand the schedule. I understand the need for splitting it time-wise, not only to manage your family, but because each of you are productive at different times of the day. But when do Shay and Sid get to be Shay and Sid awake at the same time without children and without a business in order to keep Shay and Sid on the
Like
track?
never. We have to like really tell each other to turn it off
Yeah, do you
because
schedule date nights or schedule date
we have to do
moments?
those weekend date nights. Those are really important, and just when we're on that date, like do not talk about work. Or we love like family dinner time, even though our kids, that's not kid free, but it is like a time for us to like try to turn off like work talk for a second.
Okay.
It's hard though.
I was going to say, are you actually
always-
successful at that? Because I've
Yeah.
been run a business with my husband my whole life and raised kids, and every one of them knows how to run my business inside and out now because they listen to us talk about it all the time.
Yeah, we're not always successful with the dinner time. Like the family, like when we're making dinner together, we're generally chatting about our days. But
Yes.
I would say that those date nights, we really do to turn it off because it's the only break we get
Yes.
from work.
Yes. So for
those are
you,
really
that's important. And it's funny, and I say it like that because for us, I happen to actually like talking about business on our quote unquote date night. Not that we always do. Don't get me wrong. It's not like, hey, what's our business topic? Get the agenda out. But I find that it's those moments that we're not so much talking about the nuts and bolts. We're not necessarily talking about what happened on an install or what happened with one of our employees. But that's the time that we talk about the plans and the dreams for the business. So
totally.
Okay, right? Okay, so you can talk about business, but it's not the grind. It's what next and how this and what better way, right?
Yeah, that's the time to dream together.
Yes.
And I think when I say we have to force ourselves to like turn off that conversation, it's because like I think we both really enjoy talking about our business. And we talking about where it's going and what we always say like in 5 years, where do we hope things are or what, but it is important to turn it off for a second, I think. But Sid and I have found that we can go into like the ins and outs of working with your spouse in more detail, but like those first 6 months are like really hard. They were really hard for us. And then we got into our groove, and now we've found that like if our roles and responsibilities don't really overlap, that's what works the best. So like Sid's never going to be picking tile, and he's never going to be picking pillow fabric ever. And I am not remotely interested in looking at the spreadsheets and models that they're doing, talking about numbers and things like that. It's just not, as we've just said, this is your responsibility. I trust that you can run with those things. And then we're not stepping on each other's toes. And then we get together and talk about those hopes and dreams and kind of then execute separately. And that for us has been what's worked. You have like that team huddle, and then you break and make it happen.
I agree 110%. And that's exactly the way we have functioned over these last 30 plus years. And when people have said to me, which they have many, many times, how do you work with your husband all day? Oh my goodness, and especially because we're happily married. We're actually in a week from our recording going to be celebrating our 31st anniversary. And
awesome. Good for you guys.
Yes, thank you. And we are truly happily married, and I can't wait to Friday night what's so funny is every week I say, oh, I'm too tired to go out on Friday night. And as soon as Friday at 5:00 comes, I look at him, I'm like, but I want to sit next to you and spend time with you and relax with you. So yeah, but it comes from just what you said, Shay, and I'm so glad that you guys have discovered it, because I really feel like working with your husband or wife, that is one of the biggest components in that secret sauce of success. There is that you have your areas, your zone of geniuses, you respect each other's skill set, that you're in the expertise in that area, and you have a say. You always have a say. You're both in it together. You're both on the line together. But in our business, we have 3 partners. Okay, so it's myself, my husband, and our cousin, Bill. And we each have really different, we all have things that we all do. They say there's 5 things that we can all do those same 5 things pretty good. Okay. But we also have the 2 or 3 things that each of us is literally just a little better than the others at. And we recognize it. And so what happens is that when we have decisions, first of all, in our each area of zones, like you said, he's all about operations and you're all about the creative. You're not even talking to each other about those things. You're not even asking, right? It's the same with us. We're not even, I don't have to ask him about this. He doesn't have to ask me about that. If we're going to lease 3 vehicles this year, he doesn't say, oh, can I lease 3 vehicles? It's like, well, I don't know. Can you? Go do it. You know what I mean? You got the money in the checkbook. I don't care, right? Do we even need them? I don't know.
Exactly.
I don't care. Exactly. Right. But the areas where it's important to all 3 of us to get agreement on, because maybe it's a bigger decision, we also have the thing in set where if it falls in one of the other's person's area of expertise over the others, that partner has final say over it, whether the others agree or not. And we can state our case and everything else, but finally it comes down to, all right, that's his area. All right, that's her area. And you have to walk away from it, and you can't fight the battle, and you can't bring it up 3 days later, right? Do you agree?
Right. I agree 100%.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad that we figured it out fairly early on, because it is, it's been pretty smooth sailing once we kind of figured that out. When we were first starting, I had my business that I was just doing myself. I was doing the design business myself out of our home. We had a 3-month-old baby at the time, and when Sid came in, I can't even, like, you would open up my desktop and my filing system was like to save everything to my desktop. Like I did not have, and like I knew where everything was, but it was just kind of a mess. And
Right.
Sid was just like, and I was having to teach him how to do things like, this is how you do a purchase order, and this is how you talk to our clients, like when they are like asking questions about, onboarding and all of this stuff. And we would get so frustrated with each other, because at the time the roles hadn't been separated yet. We had
Right.
not, because I was still kind of in like just kind of getting him integrated. And once we got to the point where he had enough of a handle on things that he could just run with them without having to like ask me questions about how things work, that was where the magic started happening. And that is the advice. Anyone that asks me how you do it, that is what I tell them every single time.
Hmm.
Um, so
Right. I love it. And the thing is, and you said in there, trust that the other person knows that specific task or that specific area of expertise. And that's it. Walk away. And what's so funny is a lot of us as entrepreneurs are, the ones that are like, I can do it the best. I have to be the one, the stamp of approval. But like, I feel like especially when you're working with a spouse, that spouse has every single part of that person wants the best for you as a business person,
mhm,
as a person, so why would you second guess their motive or their decision or anything, right? It's sort of like
right.
just leave it, trust it, let it go.
Yes.
So, and then respect it. And that's awesome. And the thing is, it doesn't mean that Sid isn't capable of putting together a backsplash on a countertop. It's just that he recognizes that you're better at it. And that's that. So it's not like, oh, Shay can do it at 10 and I can do it at 9. So sometimes I should be able to do it. He could do it a 9 and you could do it at 10, or he could do it a 1 and you could do it at 10. The point is you've decided that you're the one that's going to pick it.
Right.
Right. It's awesome. So that's really good. So, all right. So then you had some growing pains coming to that, though. You had, you have to get to that. And did you have rules for the times that you were experiencing growing pains? I mean, like I know for us, we had a gabillion arguments at work and in business. We don't hardly anymore because I think we're just over it and we get it that it's going to work out. So don't bother fighting about it. But there were ground rules. You had to talk and argue as if you were talking and arguing with a coworker. It's hard,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
right?
I think that is definitely a ground rule that should always be kept. I think, yeah, like you said early on, I think when we would be talking to each other about things, like we would kind of get into like spouse like bicker mode,
Mm-hmm.
and then we had to pull back and just say like, would you talk to one of our employees this way? No.
Right.
And then we still approach it that way today, which is like, we don't we don't really get into those disagreements anymore at all. It was really just at the beginning, just kind of be patient so that you guys can find how you work together.
Mm-hmm.
um, and at the beginning, that was that was definitely one of the growing pains we had. And thankfully, I mean, I like Sid and I have always had a really good relationship, and so we were able to kind of get through those and make it through. It didn't affect our, relationship, but I could see how easily it could if you just let it kind of like grow
Fester.
and
Yeah.
fester.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No, it's true. And I think, but I have to say too, I feel like when I have over my lifetime come across couples that have ongoing difficulty working together and have not come to a spot where they could look back and say, yeah, that was hard and it was challenging, but we got through it and this is how it works now. I feel like there is also, if you don't get to that spot, you probably aren't in that spot in your actual relationship. And of course, I don't say that to people when
Yeah,
they're looking
I
at
agree
me.
100%.
Don't
Like
you?
if you guys aren't able to work through things on like a day-to-day basis, do not try to go into business together. Wait until you've gotten through those things, because business just compounds. It just
Right.
compounds everything, because there's so much money and responsibility on the line that it's just easy. It's just easy to get uptight.
Right.
It's easy to get uptight.
And I just
So.
I think I've observed it more the other way. It's like, oh, we've worked together for 25 years or 10 years or 5 years and we fight every day and it's ridiculous. And I just think to myself, well, you probably fight every day whether there was a business there or not, it sounds
Right.
like to me. Like, come on, let's be serious.
Yep.
So in other words, it's a stressor. There's no question. But just like a baby is a stressor, a business is a stressor, an in-law moving in is a stressor, whatever the stressor is, if you're not solid before that stressor, forget it. You're sunk in the water, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Okay. And then the thing is that when you think about your setup is very much like ours. My husband is all about the finances and all about the operations, and I'm more into like the marketing and the sales and the employee development and so forth like that. There are designers out there, though, that maybe they're both creatives and neither one of them is the finance person, right? So that would be a harder challenge. But it sounds like to me that
they better hire someone right away that balances them out, because I think that Sid and I we always say just be honest with yourself about where you're weak, and because you've got strong points. So let's not try to be strong in all areas. Be honest with yourself about where your talents are, and then outsource where you're weaker so that you can get that balance. And then once we started being able to hire people that were strong in areas where we weren't, it was amazing the growth that we saw, because we let someone else shine in an area where we aren't as strong, and we're okay with that. We don't have to be good at every single task in running a business. Being a good business owner is about assembling a team that then helps you grow.
Right. And so I agree with that. So if you have two creatives and your skill set is in the design, and by the way, this applies if it's just two people that decide to go in business together, whether they're married or not. If you come together as a partnership and you're both the creative end and neither of you really are good at the finances or the operations, Shay, your advice is perfect. Get that person, get that complementary skill set in the door as soon as possible. But then there has to be boundaries and ways that when you are the two owners of the business and you are partners, whether it's partners in life or partners in business, if your skill sets are similar, I think would you agree, Shay, that you still have to, maybe it's harder because it's not as delineated, it's not operations creative, but there still has to be a way within the processes and the responsibilities of the creative end to say, okay, I'm always going to do from, the LOA to setting up the vendor day and setting up the thing, and you're going to do the back end of the ordering. Do you agree, somebody that their skill sets are both creative, they still have to figure out a way to give space and respect and pass off what is going to be each person's area, right?
Yeah. I mean, I think just outlining responsibilities very clearly is the way to do that. So if you're both creative, then divide up those creative responsibilities and who has ultimate say. So one person may have ultimate say with the marketing, and one person may have ultimate say with a design decision, or maybe you divide it up between projects that I have the ultimate say in this project. Whatever it is, make sure you've divided up those responsibilities. And that goes for employees and the teams within your business as well. I think you just having that division of responsibility, and that's something that we're always working on, and kind of responsibilities grow and change. So
right, very true. Good, I love it. So so let's get down to how the heck you built this empire in 2 years. So I can hear that you're a smart lady. I can hear that you have a head on your shoulders, and it sounds like Sid is a rock star as well. But that's, look, I'm pretty smart, and so is my husband. I got news for you. But I don't have 574,000 followers on Instagram, and we didn't achieve what we've done in 2 years like you have. So talk to us about it. Where's the chicken or the egg, Shay? So you are working out of your house. You are a solo. Sid is not in the business yet, and you were in the PR industry. And I heard the story. You sort of like decorated for one friend and another friend. Next thing you know, here you are. You're a decorator, right? You're a designer, right? Okay.
So yeah, backstory. I mean, I graduated with my degree in communications, doing PR, and I was working at a firm, and it was when the economy had tanked, and I didn't really have much work at the firm. And so I started going to community college, which, if I'm being honest, like that in and of itself was like this huge leap for me. I was so nervous because I didn't consider myself to be a creative. So I signed up for a few classes. I do not have my degree in interior design, but I did take like quite several semesters of design coursework so that I could just feel like I had a better understanding of scale and spacing and just the codes. So during this time, I started redoing our house, and neighbors kind of, started peeping through the windows to see what we were doing. And then I got my first little project. It was just one room, and I posted pictures of that project on Instagram. And so I think that this is key. 3 years ago, it was the field was not inundated with people posting their work on Instagram. I was very early on in posting my work to Instagram, and I didn't have nearly as much work as I do now. So I had to stretch my content. So the only way I could think to do that was to tell the story and show everything behind the scenes. So I would showcase, progress pictures, and here's a pretty photo of me putting a picture in a picture frame. And it's like, just, like these are things that like are just, I was just stretching so I could get my photo a day. That was like my goals, that I knew I had to be consistent about it. And so I needed to find a way to get a photo a day. And people say like, well, where do you get all your photos? I'm like, well, I had to be creative. I didn't have enough projects at that time to just like post something for my portfolio every day. I had to really push myself to think about how to get these photos. And then I needed to take good photos. So that was like at the beginning. Those were the key things that I think that I did, that I was smart about. And that was like learning to take nice photos, and then also just like being consistent in posting photos regularly. So, and then my timing was good in the sense that it was not everyone was doing it. And so then, that grew, and I got more clients, and they were still smaller projects, but it was mostly just all Instagram based. And about the time that Sid and I decided that we would go into business together, I had about 30, I think we were at like 30,000 followers when we decided to make the move from California to Utah, which everyone is always like, why'd you move to Utah? But Utah's actually really great. And my parents, I was raised in Texas. My parents moved to this cute little town outside of Park City. And so it was like, oh, I can have my mom help me with my baby, and it's a lot cheaper in Utah. So, I mean, we had sold our house, and we were like, okay, this is our savings. This is all of the money that we have saved our whole lives. And this is what we have to put into our business. And so we needed to make it go farther. And we knew that if we moved to Utah, we would be able to do that. Wow. So we sold our house, we moved to Utah, and now, in hindsight, everything fell into place. We felt really strongly we should do it, but it was a big, crazy move, but we just kept posting to Instagram, and our following kept growing. And when we were early on, we said, we will take anything that is a remotely decent project. We were just like, let's just take it on, because right now, as the more content that we have, the more followers we get, and the more project inquiries we get. And that was the strategy, was to take as much work as we could showcase what we could do. And now we're more choosy about what projects we take on, but that strategy of just getting as much experience as we possibly could worked. It really did.
It's amazing. Is Sid, where's he from?
He's from Southern California.
Okay, so he moved away from his family.
Belongs to the ocean.
Okay, yes. Okay. So when you said it's a big move, it was a big move. It was you decided to go into business together. You moved to a different state that neither of you had ever been to, and you are going to invest your life savings and make this happen.
Yes.
So here's
sounds nuts. Basically, we were completely nuts, but when you have if we're going to make a decision that's this big, we are going to work as hard as we possibly can to make something really big of this, because we at this point had no choice but to make something of it. Like, we couldn't fail. I was not going to, we had to support our family. So it was just like, I don't know, something about that pressure really.
Right. Well, the thing is about it, Shay, is what I like is the way it is. You're a risk taker. That's the true definition. I mean, an entrepreneur at heart is a risk taker, and everything is on the line. And it's the other part is just what you said. It has to work. I will do everything in my power to make it work. And I think that a lot of times when people look at those like you that have created something of significance and of such, obvious value and of proportions, they forget that it almost never was handed to the people. It's not like you step in and you inherit something like this. Doesn't mean that somebody who steps in and inherits something can't also be a truly effective, a great leader and everything else, and also then maybe create something else out of it. But so many of these really significant stories like yours come from, like, you don't know what I risked to do this. Yeah. I wasn't just sitting here and thought, well, maybe every other day I'll put something out on Instagram. It was like, okay, our life is on the line here. This is what we did.
I mean, I think it's really easy when you go on Instagram or the internet and you see like all of these beautifully well-lit photos of these interiors with nice furniture and it's all perfect. And then you think that all of the behind the scenes to get that photo is perfect, that it's just all perfect. But that's not what is really going on behind the scenes. I love what I do, and we have so much fun doing it, but it's not perfect behind the scenes. I can't tell you when we first started and we made this move. I mean, we sold our house. I found a rental on the internet that I had never stepped foot into. We moved into that rental and we were living off of our savings because we didn't want to pay ourselves for that first year so we could pay our employees. So those were some very trying times. And so we just, we really, I mean, at that point, like, we were chasing that dream and we were so excited about it. So making those sacrifices didn't always seem like the worst thing ever. It was like, well, no, this was a choice that we made because we were really going for this. But I think it's important to know that, like, a lot of times when you see these success stories, that every step of the way isn't easy. There are still roadblocks and there's challenges. But if you keep your chin up, it really does, it works out. And then you'll see, like, well, that project didn't work out and it actually ended up being a good thing that we didn't get that client, or whatever it is. You kind of see that things fall into place. Right. The way I always say,
sometimes the universe knows better what I really want.
Yeah, totally.
It's like, I really, really, really want that. I'm like, oh, thank God I didn't get that.
Oh, good. It's actually good. I didn't really want that.
Exactly. So. It's like, thank God. So now tell me, when you guys make this move and you put everything on the line and you are going to not take a salary for a year so that you can pay employees, was it that... How big was the dream at that point, Shay? Was the dream, let's just have this amazing interior design firm that we have a roster of clients and a pipeline full of clients, and it'll be just so much, fun, and we will support ourselves and our family on it, and we'll be working together, and we'll just go off into the sunset? Or was it, we're going to create something huge. Did you know from the beginning that you were going after not your ordinary garden variety interior design firm, or did that just happen and the dream grew along the way as you achieved each level?
If I'm being honest, we were shooting for the stars from the beginning.
Good. I'm glad that you're being honest. No point in not being.
I think that the dream I think that it's evolved in some ways. But like at the beginning, I told Sid, I said, I just see that there's like this gap of like designer stuff being attainable. It's like you have like this DIY market of for like everybody, and then you have like this super high end completely you don't it's not almost not even livable design. And there was this gap for me personally of like designer furnishings and designer look that still felt really livable, and I knew that there was something to that, and that's kind of where we went. And so we knew that we wanted to create something big. That said, I don't know that we expected it to get to this place, especially now that we've added the e-commerce into our business, and that's actually growing so exponentially that like we can't even like
it's like wild horses out the gate, right? Yeah,
my head around it. But Sid is always like, for me, like if it was just left to me, I would probably still be like have like an assistant or two. But Sid is always like, no, you can have a bigger dream than that, or you can have a bigger goal. And he's always been so supportive of like my creativity and just like us working as a team. He's always the one that's like pushing our goals, and then I'm like, I feel like once I get that vision and put my mind to something, like I can't let it go. Right. I like just can't let it go. So
I love it. I think it's awesome. And of course, what you said is you had it in your mind's eye that it would be something of significance, but it does change and it morphs along the way. It doesn't mean there aren't changes to the plan and changes to the dream and pivots along the way, right. But you intended for it to be something of significance. And I also love that it started with, you saw the need, you saw the gap. Mm-hmm. That's very, very, very important to identify where you're going to make your splash and how you're going to make your splash and why you think it's important to put a splash in that particular pool, right?
Right.
Very good.
I think finding where you fit is so important.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's right. Exactly. So now, Shay, tell us a little bit about, look, there's two things happening here. Number one, I think it's very humble of you to give a nod to the fact that Instagram was sort of, newer and a little bit possibly easier to make a difference or a splash in. But we're talking about 2 years ago. We're not really talking about 10 years ago. And I don't know how many years Instagram is on the planet, but, it's, so the thing is, that and as much as that I just made a joke out of that it was only 2 years ago, it is a lot happens in that platform in 2 years, and I'm with you on that. Okay, so even when I tell you if I'm on Instagram in the last year, then you know that a lot of people are on because it's not my wheelhouse, right? So, but the question is, if you were sitting with a room of interior designers right now and knowing what you know about how you grew your following and knowing what you know about how it's not at saturation, but much more saturated than when you got there, what would you suggest and what would you counsel them on how to step above the noise? Any ideas?
Yeah. So sure, there are a lot of people on Instagram, but that doesn't mean there are like lots of beautiful photos on Instagram. It's very interesting to me. We will, if you notice, like the Instagrammers in the design world that have like their hashtags, like we have the one that's hashtag SM make life beautiful, and people can tag their photos and for like a chance to be shared on our Instagram. And several other interior designers with big followings do that same thing. And we often are pulling some of the same people's photos, and it's because they're good photos. They are they have like great balance. They're very well lit. They're well styled. They look more editorial. And then it's easy to pull out those 5 photos in the 10,000 kind of like brownish yellow toned photos with that aren't as well styled. I mean, I think you have to really start teaching yourself. Look at magazines and look at the Instagrammers that have built bigger followings. You see that they have really well like lit. They're naturally lit. They don't have that yellow light on, and they've really, I can't talk enough about how to style your photos in such a way that they're engaging and clear and crisp. Those are the ones that stand out. And so even though there are so many photos and so many people on Instagram, you can very easily spot the beautiful photos in the mix of all of the other ones. And so your photo will stand out. We're still at a place where not everyone is putting out beautiful photos.
Okay.
So there might be a lot of people out there, but there's still room to shine, definitely.
And what are you suggesting? Are you suggesting when they curate others, pick others' photos, or
when they're taking their own?
Okay. So, and again, you're, so somebody who is, newer starting in business, you said earlier in the conversation, so you had no projects in the beginning. You had, what if you had one project going on, you would figure out a way to create a story of 10, 12, 15, 20 days out of that same project by breaking it down into pieces. But you took good photos, and what you're saying now is to make the lighting and the vignette in it or whatever it is to be of quality.
Yes.
Okay. So talk to us a little bit about those tips. So the quality of the lighting, you've mentioned a couple of times about, ixnay on the yellow lighting nay.
Yeah. So I say if you go into a home and it feels a little dark, still don't turn those lights on. Figure out how to, either use a camera that you can adjust the shutter speed and like put it on a tripod so that you get all that natural light in, or get some there's like Visco and Pick Tap Go, or a couple of good photo apps on your phone that can help you brighten your photo. But that natural light, I don't know what it is, but that's where all of our eyes go to. And when you're going through the feed, your eye catches those naturally lit photos. And then composing a vignette that is engaging and has some nice balance. So like if you only have you have one room and that's your portfolio, get the mileage out of it. Create one photo that showcases like the top of the dresser with the objects on top of it. And then maybe you have one photo where you're in the picture styling that vignette. And then one where, it's we all laugh, the feet on the rug. But that right there, it gets you like 3 or 4 photos out of one room. And that's not even the full room shot.
Right.
You kind of have to do the details and the full rooms and then different angles. And then you're going to get your mileage. And then you can think outside of the box and go outside of that room. Like when you went shopping, was there something really pretty that you saw when you went shopping? Well, take a photo of that and post it. Or when you are just, out and about, you can share your day in a beautiful way. That's how you stretch your content, is just looking outside of the norm.
It's interesting. It's a great concept. And did you, when you were first doing it and now when you're doing it, do you pretty much like set aside an hour, 2 hours, whatever it is, and I'm going to do the top of the dresser shot, I'm going to do the nightstand shot, and I'm going to do the rug on the feet, the feet on the rug shot? Do you just kind of take them all and you block the time out to do all those and then send them, figure out whether you're going to edit on your phone or your desktop or whatever, and then schedule it out? Is that how you do it, or did it?
I wish it was that scheduled. But no, so okay. I'd say that's.
There's probably 2 answers. One, the way you used to do it, right? And one, the way it happens now, right?
Yes. And so the way it happens now is like when we have a project, we photograph it. We have a professional photographer that will come in, whereas I just did it when we first started. But we have a professional photographer that comes in, and I have them take wide shots and tight shots. So we get the vignettes and the big room shots. So then, I get my content then. And then on the like day-to-day kind of like in between, like my feet on the rug or like I'm going shopping, I just snap those I don't plan those. That's just kind of as it comes. When I was first starting, I planned those a little bit more because I needed them. I didn't have as much content, so I had to think about it a lot more.
I love it. I think it's awesome. It's such a, we've had a lot of discussions about what to do when you don't have a portfolio to share, but that's very specific and, really expresses, like you said, in one bedroom, one room, how many different shots that you can get out of it that are not going to bore somebody to pieces and not be like, oh my God, it's that again.
Right.
It's almost like you're teasing them with all the little different components. And then the final room shot is like, oh, that's the whole room. Right.
Right. I can't stress enough the importance of learning how to take a good photo.
And so what did you do with that?
You can make anything interesting and engaging if you know how to take a good photo.
And what did you do with that? Did you just like practice over and over again with, just sitting right next to whatever you're picturing and editing? And
no, I took a workshop class.
Okay.
And that was kind of how I learned to do use a camera like just kind of on a basic level. And then of course you can't just take a workshop and then expect to know everything. You just have to practice. So once I took the workshop, then I just continued to make sure I used my camera and practiced. And then that's kind of from there how it
and how now let's move on into your Instagram platform grew. It grew because of these tactics that you're describing, but it also probably grew with engagement and talking back and forth. You want to talk a little bit about that? Talk about the level and how you strategically grew the audience from, say, 1,000 to 10,000 followers, if you can remember.
Okay. Yeah. So you can't just put stuff out there. It's not just about shouting at people. You have to engage. You have to become friends with the people, love the people that are following your work. So when they comment and they ask a question, do your best to respond. I know that it's not always possible to respond, but try, or even just say, thank you. Thanks so much for, liking my photo, or whatever it is that you're wanting to do to develop that relationship. Make sure that you're responding to the comments that they put on your photos, but then also commenting on others' photos. This allows you to be seen. People can discover you that way because let's say they're following someone that you comment on, and then they click on your name, and then they're like, oh, I actually like this person's style, and then they start following you. That's really important, and it's just a good way to be discovered is when you're engaging with other people. And it's also great to just develop those relationships with people that are kind of in your space. It serves you well if you decide that you have a product that you're going to start to sell. You already have relationships with people, and you can say, hey, I want to send this to you. Then they're much more likely to do it if you've already developed an actual relationship with them through Instagram. But yeah, that engagement. The other thing too is like Instagram now, when I first started, it wasn't as and they weren't tracking that as much, but the algorithm changed, and that engagement, like how much you're responding to people and commenting, improves like how many people they're showing your photo to. So that's important.
Okay. And then take us now to 574,000 followers.
Yeah.
I mean, I know Amber Lewis said to us that she's the one who's answering. So she point blank said, look, I'm going to answer, dozens and dozens of you every day, but I'm probably not going to be able to answer, 700 of you every day. So please don't be offended and, whatever. I mean, of course, I'm putting words into her mouth. She said something to that effect. How do you guys manage it? Are you doing yours, or at this point? Because I can't even imagine the engagement that's happening there. You have photos that have 3,000 and 4,000 likes and, 200-300 comments.
Yeah. So it's of course like grown to the point where I can't manage it 100% on my own, but I do say I can't let go of posting. I do the posting and the captions always because it's my voice and it's important for me to be authentic. And so I always post the photos. And then when things kind of those comments start rolling in, I'm usually the one that's doing the engagement, and then we have our marketing team. There's a couple of people that will help me respond to those kind of after they've seen like, oh, she's responding with this and it's this paint color. Okay, when we get 10 other questions asking for that exact same
paint color,
I'll just respond to them. And then we get, hundreds of DMs a day. And those are really hard to keep up with. But I try to check in here and there. But again, that's like our marketing team will often respond to some of the DMs. If they're ones that like, it's just like a question of like, where's that from? And then they know the answer. That's the only way that we're able to keep up with it.
Yeah,
so we kind of, I'd say it's definitely me always posting and doing some of the engagement, but then our team really helps with that.
It would have to be that way. And by the way, I don't think there's anybody listening that could begrudge that. That's no different than an
Don't get mad at me because
No, I mean, look, I'm going to make the exact analogy that every single person listening can relate to. If you're the lead interior designer and you have some juniors on your staff, even if it's one assistant that's an intern, yes, it's your vision, it's your brand, it's your design, but guess what? That intern might have picked the sofa table, the fabric going next to the on the chair next to the sofa. And I looked at it and I approved it, but so it's the same thing. What you're saying is the content is yours, the voice is yours. You're going to answer the first how many dozen questions, but when the 456th person said, "Where's that lamp from?" No, Shay does not need to be answering that question again.
Exactly.
No, I love it. It's totally logical. No interior designer listening would think that any room that they put together for a client wasn't their design, even if some junior did the CAD drawing, some junior picked the trim, some junior, met with the tile guy. Exactly. So that's amazing. I have one final question for you. That's a two-parter. So when you started this and you were starting your Instagram and you guys moved across to Utah and you really had your sights on this big dream, who was it that inspired you? It seems to me, I know you sensed the gap in the market, but was there another designer or another business, it could be out of the industry, that you said, and I think we can create this?
Oh, that's a really good question, and I don't know that I know the answer to that.
Oh, okay.
We were just kind of going for it.
Okay.
I don't know that I had someone that we were looking to. I mean, I think we had sorry, that's
because
not
you
a good
know what?
answer,
Because there's people out now there now that are going, I want to be like Shay.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I didn't really have that my sights set on something. I just kind of
knew it.
We know what we like visually, and I think that there are some brands like outside of the design industry that inspired kind of my husband loves Best Made. I don't know if you know what Best Made is, but it's this like really cool kind of outdoor company, and their branding is really beautiful, and they tell a story about the products and the people that kind of are just like using their products.
Okay.
And that was really intriguing to me because when we say make life beautiful as our tagline, like I mean that in the truest sense of the word. I am so interested in how people use their homes and just kind of do things to make their life a little bit more beautiful every day. And if that just means they're like clipping branches from the tree in their backyard, because that makes them a little happier. I love that story. I like hearing about that. And so I don't know that I have a specific person or brand that I was inspired by home-wise, but I was really inspired by people that are like brands that really told a story.
Well, that's a great, like I said, it could have been out of the industry, and it turns out that it sounds like it might have been. But what I'm hearing, you correct me if I'm wrong, what I'm hearing is that you admired the way that particular company, regardless of the fact that they were not in the design industry, pulled you in to their company. by telling a story, by having the whole thing fully expressed, and so that you sort of had that in your mind's eye as the way you'd like to be a company.
Yes,
I love it.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
I love it. See, it comes from somewhere, usually. It does come from somewhere. Not that you ever copy anything or, anything like that, but it usually does. I mean, even I don't remember who Oprah said her thing was that inspired her, but I remember her saying the same thing. It was like she was, wherever she was in Chicago, it wasn't Philadelphia. She moved to Chicago. I forget where she was at one of her first stops, and she just could see that she was meant to do something bigger, and it was that in her mind's eye, it was a certain way, and whatever it was modeled on, and then of course, forget that, she eclipsed the entire world.
Yeah, I mean, I would sit down and I'd read Domino magazine in its early days, and I loved that they would make these little notes and tips in the magazines about how to do things, and they were sharing knowledge, and they made it so approachable, and they made me feel like I could do it. And I think that we have taken our blog shares so much information about how we do things, and gives tips on how to design your own spaces, that I think it's those companies that have really inspired me, and maybe from an editorial sense, like some magazines that were made design feel more approachable, that really spoke to me.
I like it. I think it's awesome. I think it's amazing. I'm in awe of what you have created in such a short time. We could be talking in 15 years and you could have created what you've created, and I would have been in awe of it. But it's just magnified by the fact that it's been 2 years. So, but I'm going to wish you continued luck and success, but you're creating it. You don't need it wished upon you by anybody, because the two of you seem to have a great team. You have your systems down, you have your respect in hand for each of each other's zone of genius, and you just are very intentional about what you do, and you're not afraid to take risk, and you're not afraid to stand and put your stake in the ground and work for what you want. It's all very clear to me. So congratulations, Shay, really.
Well, thanks so much. And this was so fun. Thanks for having me.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I know that this is going to be a well-listened to podcast, Shay, because I can't tell you the number of people that have asked for you, and I can't tell you how grateful all of us are, because it's clear that you're very busy, and you're very giving, and you're very sharing, and you've taken that same approach that you do in interior design, and you brought it here. I watched it at Design Bloggers, and that's exactly what you did here again, and I thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
All right. So, do you think you want an empire? Are you ready to work that hard? It's funny because each person decides for them what the right decision is. I just spoke with Kim at Kimberly K Interiors last week, and she specifically does not aspire to having 30-some employees. She doesn't want any employees for that matter. So is one right and one wrong? Absolutely. No. It means we are all here to do what we want to do. However, the thing that I'm always trying to illustrate for you when we have the opportunity to meet these superior superstar interior designers like Amber Lewis, Kelly Ellis, Taylor Spellman, Candace Olson, and Shea McGee. The thing is to never ever think that they're just lucky. And they all have said that luck has played a part in it. And I agree. There's always moments that everything in the universe lines up. There's no doubt about it. But there is no interior design fairy godmother. No. That's not how it is. They all have a vision, they have a dream, they have a goal, and they have each worked relentlessly in pursuit of it. And each of them, Shay included, gives up things along the way in order to have it. Now, as she said, the schedule that she and Sid are in right now is not sustainable for the long haul. She knows it. She's not pretending that she's going to do this like this for 100 years. But for now, she and Sid agree. They are united and they share a vision and they are working hard toward a future goal and they see it together. And this is their life and it makes them happy. And I think it's awesome and I applaud them for it. So now you know that Shay and I didn't even get to touch on the web series that they've created for YouTube, the making of it, the process of it, and the results that they're earning from it. So stay tuned. Shay has agreed that she'll come back on the show and there's just too much to talk about. So she has a very, very, very busy fall coming up. But we're thinking we're going to get together in early winter. And of course, there's going to be round 2 with Shea McGee. So I'm very excited and very happy and delighted that she's going to come back and share some more stuff with us. So, all right. Thanks tons for joining me. If you like the show, please do me a solid. Do 2 things for me if you would. Write a rate and review in iTunes and please share the show with a friend. This is how the show grows. This is how I get to bring more things to you. And I'm going to say to you, I'm just going to tell you that probably you may have it already, but if you don't, it's coming very soon. If you're on our email list, then I am sending you a survey. I think it's 5 little questions, but I'd love, 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 love it if you would just take a moment and answer the 5 questions for me. The way that you answer these questions and the data that I get from these answers are going to help me very much in pursuing sponsors and growing the show and bringing other features to the show that I think that you'll be very excited and happy to have. So, and if you're not on our email list, then all you have to do is text these numbers, 444-999. And when you text those numbers, you send the word Design Biz, DESIGNBIZ, no caps, no spaces. So you're going to text the word Design Biz to this number, 444-999. It will open one screen. You will put your email address in, and then you will be on our email list. And you will know everything that's happening, what's going on. There's always something going on. We're getting very busy here. It's lots of fun. So I'd love it if you'd be on the email list. And if you are on our email list and you get the survey, it'd be super awesome if you'd fill it out for me. It's 5 questions. Like nobody understands time better than me and can't be bothered wasting time less than me. So I promise you it's bang, bang, bang and done, done, done. But it would be very super helpful for me if you would do it. And I very much appreciate it. Alrighty. So by the time this show is airing, I'm going to be landing in Atlanta. So if you are in Atlanta at America's Mart for Fall Design Week, please come see me. Definitely at some point during Monday and Tuesday, but definitely come to our Design Tech Talk Tuesday at 1:00. I will be moderating a panel with Mark McDonough, Sarah Daniele, and Sandra Funk. It's going to be tons of fun. You know how it is. I'm like, serious, but not so serious, right? So thank you so much. Look forward to meeting you in Atlanta and in Philadelphia on October 4th. And I just want to say thank you so much for joining me. I really do value and appreciate that you show up. Have an excellent day. Thank you for joining me again today for another episode of A Well-Designed Business. This podcast is a production of WindowWorks in Livingston, New Jersey, your trade resource for custom window treatments and awnings. Learn more about WindowWorks at www.windowworks-nj.com. All of our music is original music by Room 2 Productions. Please contact us if you want to learn more about original music for your business or your events.